Hi, Barack. This is the first of 4 messages I'll be sending you here in succession. And the intent of the messages is to talk to you about a group I call the 10. You're on the list. Let me show you the list. This is the 10. And of course, you recognize all the names on the list. So what's the story? And why am I contacting you, and why are you on the list? Well, I I am looking for a group of people that are famous or semi-famous, intelligent and educated, and have often, during their public lives, expressed the desire to do the greater good. And what am I talking about doing? Well, there's a group of similar people with similar traits that were revolutionaries back in the mid to late 1700s in this country. And they got together and they talked about the treason against, treason against the King of England back in the day, and the ramifications of doing that, and the conditions at the time that might make even going to war something that they would want to suffer because of the future state that they hope for. And so I mentioned traitor, and I'm not talking about like redoing the government, throwing out the Constitution. In fact, not at all. In fact, I would argue, the construction of our government, especially the acid test of placing Donald Trump in what most people would argue is the most critical position in our government, and the fact that the government still functions, and we're still here, with only maybe 17 months to go in his administration, hopefully his only term. We're still here. We still persevere, and for the most part, government continues to function. Now, many of us would argue it's not as good as it was a few years ago. Okay, granted, but it still functions. And so this unbelievable atomic bomb of stress on the structure of government shows that the structure is good. So our problem is not the structure of government. Our problem is the candidates. The candidates, not just Mr. Trump, but other candidates. Okay? It's the way that we find, identify, and put candidates into our governmental structure. That's the problem. That's what's preventing us from having a much, much brighter future, from doing so much better, from being so much better. It's the candidates and the way that we find those candidates. And so our current political system, we've all for years just kind of adopted this two-party system. And I remember reading in a history thing somewhere that one of the reasons why George Washington didn't want to continue to be president is because these political parties had sprung up, and he was already he threw his hands up and said, I don't want to have anything to do with this. Okay? And if you ask yourself, there's a technique called the 5 whys. If you ask yourself why, in the end, it's these political parties that are put together and led by people who, quite frankly, seek wealth, influence, and power. That's what they do. Okay? And so the reality is many of these people, actually all of them, would be king if they could be. And then what happens with the process is we bring up candidates, and all the candidates have to say, well, at least a portion of their personality is they would be king. Now, yes, even you. Okay? Now, it could be a big portion of it that's, yes, I want to just serve my country and serve the people and so on, but there has to be a portion that would be king. Otherwise, you wouldn't ride the buses all across the country and talk and shake hands until you can eat the fried food at the Iowa state fair and raise hundreds of millions of dollars and run all the attack ads and all that stuff. You wouldn't do that if there wasn't at least a portion of you that wanted to be king. And so what I'm wanting to do and hoping to do is that the 10 would be a nucleus of individuals that would have enough influence that we could start trying to cross the chasm. The chasm between where we are, where the political parties and all the fighting and the polarization and everything and on and on and on basically is killing us, to a new place where there's just intelligent, capable leaders who really just truly seek to serve. And so the question to you and the rest of the members of the 10 is, how do we cross the chasm? And I have some proposals, and that's what I put into the third and fourth messages that you'll receive. Well, right about now, you may be asking, well, who are you? Well, I'm a guy in Hudson, Wisconsin. That's who I am. And if you really want to know who I am, I've prepared the second message that you have received is a 30-minute video about me. I thought long and hard about how, two things. How do I bring attention to this? How do I try to draw attention to it? And so back in January, I formally, listed with the Federal Election Commission as a candidate for President of the United States. I'm seeking to serve. I don't want to run. I don't want to, ride the buses and all that. And you're probably saying, well, good luck. But that's the problem, right? At least in my eyes. And I'm hoping that you and the other members of the 10 would agree. That's the problem we have. Just imagine, and if you watch the videos, just imagine all the people that serve our society in all those great ways. The first responders, the firemen, the police force, the public defender attorneys, on and on, the public school teachers, all these people. Just imagine if they had to go through raising all the money and all of the rhetoric and everything to just try to serve the country, okay, to serve the communities in which they live. It's wrong-headed. I'm absolutely convinced it's wrong-headed, and we can fix it. So my proposal is some straw man proposals around fixing it. So watch the video of me, and I hope. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not a famous director or anything like that. It's just the footage of me. I'm talking and telling a story, one of the critical stories in my life. I thought long and hard about how to make people understand me as quickly as possible, and I ended up telling this one story, which I think should tell really just about anybody all they would ever need to know about who I am. And I apologize for the video, and you may say, well, it starts kind of slow, and but watch it through to the end. It's worth the 30 minutes. And if you are who I think you are, and if you have the traits that I think you do, don't be surprised if you're shedding some tears by the end of that video. And then, as I said before, the third and fourth videos talk about this proposal about how to change things for the greater good. Well, I hope one day that I'll have the honor and privilege of talking to you and working on this project together. And only time will tell, and only you can answer that question. So, bye for now.